I never imagined the man I trusted most would be the one to break me. I thought cheating was something that happened in other people's lives, not mine. But all it took was one night, one kiss, and my world changed forever. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't strong, but I had to become strong, because the man who broke me was the man I loved the most. My name is Maya. I'm 34 years old. I live in a small, quiet town with my daughter, Alina. She's 7. I was married for 10 years to Daniel. We had a good life. At least, I thought we did. We weren't rich, but we were happy. We shared small joys. Coffee on the balcony, bedtime stories with Alina, silly jokes in the kitchen. I believed in us. I believed in him. Daniel was a gentleman, the kind who brought flowers home after work, the kind who made pancakes on Sundays and sang silly songs while brushing Alina's hair. I used to watch them play together and think, we're lucky. He wasn't perfect, but I thought he was mine. I thought I was his only one. I was wrong. It was a Friday night. Daniel was going to a birthday party for one of his old friends. I wasn't feeling well, so I told him to go without me. I stayed home in bed, thinking he'd come back with stories, with smiles, like always. But that night, something else happened. If this kind of story speaks to you, if you've felt this kind of heartbreak before, stay with me and maybe leave a comment or subscribe so you don't miss what happened next. The next morning, Daniel was already in the kitchen when I woke up. He was sitting very still. No coffee, no phone, just sitting. His eyes looked dark, like he hadn't slept. "Everything okay?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Maya," he said, "I did something wrong." My heart jumped. "What do you mean?" I asked. His voice was low. "Last night, I kissed someone. It was my ex. I didn't plan it. I was drunk. She came close. I didn't stop her." My breath stopped. I stared at him. "You kissed her?" I said. He nodded. "It was only once. I didn't mean to. It just happened." Those words hit me like cold water. My hands were shaking. "Just happened?" I asked. "You have a choice in every moment. You chose to let her get close. You chose not to stop her." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just said, "Leave." He blinked, confused. "Now?" he asked. I pointed at the door. "Right now. Go." That house was mine. I bought it before we got married. I had the right to send him out, and I did. Alina was with my mother that weekend. She didn't see anything. For that, I was thankful. I sat alone for hours. I didn't know what hurt more, the kiss or the lie that followed. That night, Daniel sent me a message, then another, then 10 more. "I love you. I made a mistake. Please talk to me." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Then his mother called. She said, "Maya, don't throw away your marriage for one mistake." I was quiet. "All men mess up," she said. "My husband cheated once. I stayed. We're still together." I was shocked. "That's your choice," I said. "But I won't sleep beside a man who kisses someone else and calls it a mistake." She said, "Think about Alina. She needs her father." I said, "He can be her father without being my husband." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said the truth. I wanted peace, not excuses. Some people said I was too cold. Some said I should forgive him, but none of them stood in my place that morning. None of them heard the words that broke my trust. I still loved him. That made it worse. I missed him making tea in the mornings. I missed his hand on my back when I couldn't sleep. But love without trust is like a house with no walls. It can't stand. Days passed. Daniel kept trying, messages, calls, flowers at my door. "Just talk to me," he wrote. "Let me fix this." But I couldn't. My heart was still bleeding. I kept asking myself, can I ever trust him again? The answer was always no. I didn't tell Alina the truth. I just said, Daddy is staying somewhere else for now. She didn't ask much. She missed him, of course. He was a good father. He always showed up for her school plays. He made her laugh with silly voices. He loved her deeply. But that didn't change what he did to me. The hardest part was at night, when Alina was asleep and the house was quiet. I'd sit in bed and replay that moment in the kitchen. His face, his words, the way my heart cracked. I wanted to hate him, but I couldn't. I just wanted to forget. But forgetting is not the same as healing. And I wasn't healed. Not yet. 1 week passed, and Daniel didn't stop trying. Every day there was something. A text message, a missed call, a note left by the door. Sometimes he brought flowers. Sometimes he left Alina's favorite snacks with little hearts drawn on the paper. He didn't beg or shout. He waited. He stayed quiet, but he stayed near. I saw it, and I knew it came from real pain. But I was still broken. I couldn't forget what he did. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing that moment in the kitchen again. I had trusted him with everything. And in one night, he gave a piece of us away. It was strange to miss someone who hurt you. At night, after Alina fell asleep, I often sat by the window, looking at the empty street. I didn't cry loudly anymore. I just sat in silence, wondering where everything went wrong. I remembered our wedding day, how his hands shook when he put the ring on my finger. I remembered how he kissed my forehead the night Alina was born and whispered, "You're amazing." I remembered how he used to make me laugh even when I was angry. Those memories were still mine, but they were also stained now. They didn't shine the same way. They felt heavy, like they didn't belong to me anymore. One evening, Alina asked, "When will Daddy come home?" I was cutting vegetables in the kitchen and froze for a moment. I turned and looked at her. She was holding her doll, her face full of innocence. I sat down beside her and said, "Sweetheart, sometimes adults make mistakes. And when they do, they need time to fix them." She didn't cry. She just nodded slowly and hugged me. I held her tight and whispered, "No matter what, Mommy and Daddy love you so much. That will never change." She smiled a little and went to play in her room. But my heart was shaking. I didn't know if I was lying or if I was just trying to protect her from a truth she was too young to understand. Daniel never pushed me. He didn't knock on the door or raise his voice. He gave me space, but his presence was always there. One Sunday, he waited outside Alina's school just to see her. I had not stopped him from being a father. He had every right to be in her life. When Alina saw him, she ran into his arms laughing. He picked her up and spun her around. I stood far away watching. My heart hurt, not because I was jealous or angry, but because that moment reminded me of how things used to be. When they finished talking, Daniel walked toward me slowly. I didn't plan to speak, but I didn't walk away either. He stood a few steps from me and said, "I won't give up, Maya. I know I hurt you. I know I lost your trust. But I will keep showing up, not to pressure you, just to prove that I mean it." I looked at him. He looked tired, but not weak. He looked like a man who had cried in silence. I didn't reply. I simply turned and walked away with Alina. That night, I couldn't sleep again. My mind kept playing his words. Part of me wanted to forget everything and run back to the life we had. But another part reminded me that even one kiss can carry so much pain. I needed more than love. I needed honesty, safety, and peace. I had to think for me and for Alina. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Alina was growing fast, and life with just the two of us started to feel normal. We laughed, played, and painted silly pictures together. I made all the decisions now, what to eat, what to watch, when to sleep. It was hard, but it was calm. Daniel still came to visit Alina every weekend. He was never late. He brought her books, small gifts, and sometimes flowers for me too, though I never invited him inside. He didn't talk about us. He just showed up like a quiet promise. And slowly, I noticed things were different. He didn't drink anymore. He didn't lie, not even small things. He respected my silence, and he started helping more, not just as a father, but as a man trying to fix what he broke. Then one afternoon, something happened. Daniel came early. Alina was playing in the garden, so he picked up a broom and started sweeping leaves. I watched him through the window. He wasn't doing it for attention. He didn't know I was watching. He just did it. When I walked outside, he smiled gently and said, "Hey." I nodded. Then he said, "Can we talk?" I didn't answer, but I didn't walk away either. He said, "I think about that night every day. I would give anything to take it back, but I can't. All I can do is be better now, not just for you, but for me and for Alina." I looked at him for a long time. My chest felt tight, but not with anger. It was something else, something soft, like hope. I said, "Do you know what hurt the most?" He nodded. "That you didn't stop her," I continued. "That you didn't even think about me or Alina in that moment. You were supposed to be mine." His voice broke when he said, "I know. And I hate myself for that." I looked toward the garden. Alina was laughing, chasing butterflies. I said, "She still has her father. But I lost my husband that night. If I choose to let you back into my life, it won't be because I forgot. It will be because I see who you are now." After that day in the garden, something inside me began to shift. I didn't tell Daniel right away, but I noticed the way my heart felt less heavy when I saw him. I started to believe his words, not because they were sweet, but because they were steady. He didn't push. He didn't ask for answers. He didn't expect anything. He just showed up when it mattered and stayed quiet when it didn't. That calm was something new. It wasn't the same kind of love we had before, full of fire and fun. This time, it was quiet and slow, like the sun rising on a cold morning. You don't notice the change right away, but it warms you before you even realize. One weekend, Alina had a small school event. She was going to sing with her class. She asked if both Mommy and Daddy could come. I said yes and told Daniel about it. He came early, wearing a clean shirt and holding a small flower for Alina. When she saw him, her face lit up. She ran to him, holding his hand tightly. We walked into the school together. Some parents gave us strange looks, maybe wondering why we weren't together anymore, maybe thinking we were still a family. In a way we were, but not in the way they thought. I sat on one side, Daniel sat on the other, and Alina stood on stage looking proud. She sang her song with joy, and I felt something deep in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was peace. After the event, we went for a short walk. Alina skipped ahead with her flower while Daniel and I walked behind. He said, "Thank you for letting me be part of that. It means a lot." I nodded. Then I asked him, "Do you still love me?" Or do you just miss the past?" He looked surprised, but he answered right away. "I love you," he said. "Not the old you or the old us. I love who you are now. I love how strong you've become. I love that you didn't forgive me too fast. You made me grow up. You made me better." His words were simple, but they felt true. I didn't reply. I just kept walking, thinking about what it all meant. That night, I sat by the window again. I watched Alina sleep, her small hands holding her doll. I thought about the last year, all the tears, all the lonely nights, all the silence I had to live through to find this quiet again. I realized that healing doesn't come in one big moment. It comes slowly, in small steps, in small choices. And maybe, just maybe, this was one of those steps. I picked up my phone and sent Daniel a short message. "Thank you for today." He replied, "Thank you for everything." From that day, I allowed him to be around a little more. Not just as Alina's father, but as someone I could talk to again. He came for dinner once a week. We didn't call it anything. It was just time shared. I saw him helping Elena with her homework, brushing her hair gently, making her laugh. And sometimes, when I wasn't looking, I caught him looking at me, not with hope, not with pressure, just with quiet care. He didn't talk about love. He didn't ask for a second chance, but everything he did was already saying it. One rainy night, power went out in the house. Alina was scared, so I called Daniel to come stay for a while. He brought candles and snacks. We sat in the living room, telling stories. Alina fell asleep on the sofa, and we stayed quiet for a while. Then Daniel said, "Do you remember the first night we moved into this house? We sat on the floor, eating pizza from the box. We didn't even have chairs." I smiled. "You said you didn't care if we had nothing, as long as we had each other." He looked down. "I forgot that," he said softly, "but I won't forget again." There was a long silence. I looked at him and asked, "Why did you really kiss her?" "Tell me the truth." He took a deep breath. "I felt lost," he said. "Not because of you, because of me. I thought I wasn't enough. That maybe I was boring or not good enough for the life we had. I was weak. I didn't think about you or Alina or what I'd lose. I just wanted to feel something different for a second. But it was the worst mistake of my life." I listened. I watched his face. He wasn't hiding anything. He wasn't making it smaller. That honesty mattered more than he knew. "I hated you," I said. "I hated that you threw away everything we built. I hated waking up alone. I hated lying to Alina about why you were gone. But most of all, I hated missing you." He looked at me and said, "I never stopped missing you, not for one day." I looked down at my hands. They were shaking a little. Then I said, "I don't know if I can give you everything again, but maybe I can give you a chance." His eyes filled with tears, but he didn't move. He just said, "That's more than I deserve, and I'll earn it." After that night, something felt different between us. I wouldn't call it love yet, and I didn't call it forgiveness either. It was something softer, something in between, like a bridge being rebuilt brick by brick. I didn't let him move back in. Didn't tell anyone that we were trying again. I needed time. I needed to feel everything, not hide it under fast decisions or soft words. But I started letting him come around more. For dinner, for help with Alina's school, for little repairs in the house. He never acted like a husband. He acted like a man who wanted to be one again. And there was a difference. Some days were hard. Some nights I still woke up angry. I would remember his kiss with her. I would see it in my head like a picture I didn't ask to see. But then I would hear Alina laugh from her room. Or Daniel would hand me a cup of tea just how I liked it. No sugar, a little milk. And my heart would calm down again. I didn't forget what he did. I never will. But I started to believe that a mistake doesn't always mean the end. It can mean the beginning of something better, if the person who made it is truly sorry and willing to change. And Daniel had changed. I didn't need him to say it. I saw it in the way he showed up every day, even when I gave him nothing in return. One morning, Alina asked, "Why can't Daddy live with us again?" I looked at her little face and said, "Because Mommy needed time to heal. Sometimes grown-ups hurt each other, even if they don't mean to." She looked down and said, "But he brings flowers now. He says sorry a lot." I smiled gently. "Yes, he does. That's a good thing." She nodded and said, "I think Daddy is better now." I kissed her forehead and said, "Me too." But I still wasn't ready to say it out loud to him. Not yet. Then came a quiet Sunday afternoon. The weather was warm, the kind of day where everything feels peaceful. Alina was drawing pictures in the garden. Daniel was helping me in the kitchen, cutting fruit, humming a tune. He wasn't trying to impress me. He wasn't saying anything sweet. He was just present, just kind, just there. That's when I looked at him and said, "Would you like to stay for dinner?" He smiled, but he didn't smile too much. He just said, "Only if you want me to." And I did. I wanted him there, not because I was lonely, but because I felt calm around him again. I felt safe. And that feeling was something I hadn't felt in a long time. That night, after Alina went to bed, we sat on the couch with tea. The TV was on, but we weren't watching. Daniel looked at me and said, "I think about that night every single day. I know I've said sorry 100 times, but I'll keep saying it for the rest of my life if that's what it takes." I looked at him. His eyes didn't look tired anymore. They looked real. I took a deep breath and said, "You don't have to say sorry forever, but you do have to keep being this man, the man who shows up, the man who listens, the man who doesn't run away." He nodded slowly. "I will," he said, "for you, for Alina, and for myself." I told him then, "I want us to try again. But we're not going back to how things were. That version of us is gone. If we do this, it's going to be new, and slow, and careful." He smiled with tears in his eyes. "I'll take careful over nothing," he said. I leaned my head on his shoulder. It wasn't a movie moment. It was quiet, real, and full of truth. And sometimes, that's even better. Weeks later, Daniel moved back in. Not into our bedroom, not at first. He took the guest room. We lived side by side, like two people learning each other again. We talked more than ever before. We shared small things. We cooked together again. Alina was happier than ever. She drew pictures of all three of us, holding hands under a sun with a smiling face. I hung them on the fridge and smiled every time I passed by. One evening, I sat on the bed and thought about everything. About the night he kissed her. About the pain, the silence, the nights I cried into my pillow. I remembered the strength it took to say no, to make him leave, to build a life alone. And now, I was here. Not because I was weak, not because I missed being married, but because I chose to give a second chance. I chose it with open eyes and a guarded heart. Not for the past, but for the future we were slowly building again. I walked to the garden, where Daniel was watering the plants. He looked up at me. I said, I'm ready now. You can sleep in our room again." He didn't smile fast. He just looked at me quietly, with so much care. "Are you sure?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm sure." That night we didn't say much. We just lay in bed, not touching, just being near each other. And it felt right. Sometimes love is not about never breaking. It's about who stays to pick up the pieces. It's about who learns from the pain and decides to do better. Daniel made a mistake, but he didn't run from it. He stayed. He changed. And in the end, I chose him again. Not because I had to, but because I could.